What is up, ladies and gents? We are back, and for this video, it was sponsored by a donation from one of the members of my community, so thank you. Some players need extra help in understanding dungeon mechanics without pictures, so this is for you. Carmine is one of the easiest dungeons, beginning with a simple 4-pin setup. DPS will be on pin 1, and the tank will be behind the boss or the direction of pin 2 or 3. The reason for this is to prevent players from getting hit while the boss swings at the tank. Lastly, a single player will be in either positions 2 or 4. The reason is because after a period of time, the boss will attack the furthest player, and that shockwave is intended to be away from the DPS on 1. Fun fact, when you see the boss attack the ranged player, it's a heads up that after 2 more hits, the boss will begin the next mechanic, which is the 3 charge. The first charge will go to the furthest player, the second charge, be prepared, and lastly, the final charge will go towards the tank or whoever holds aggro. At this moment, stop DPS, focus on movement blocks, and after the third block, run over to where the boss currently is, because he will begin a whirlwind of damage, which is basically an HP check. If you're on the outside, he will do more damage to you. Once he settles down, he will do a heavy attack where you must block. This is a great time for healers to drop the circle AoE heal and a big AoE heal. Afterwards, reset positions because he will repeat this mechanic. After he does the second whirlwind, you need to already be set up for the next mechanic. If you wait for after the next heavy block, you may not have enough time. So the way it works is the boss will teleport to the center and pull 4 players and leave 2 to roam freely. The players he pulls are not random and can be controlled. Those 4 players will get hit with shockwaves consecutively. They will each have a tether that causes damage if they move. For this to be done correctly, we use the middle as a reference point for distance in the next step. The furthest player will get marked with the first orb based off how far or near the edge they are once the boss teleports. What that means is for the next mechanic where he does 4 shockwaves, that person will be targeted first. The second person who will be targeted is the tank or the player in front of the furthest player. They will get a debuff marker that looks like a mini axe. This debuff does damage over time, so how do I control this and make it make sense? The furthest is decided by proximity to the center. It doesn't matter where the boss is when he teleports, your reference point is the middle circle where the boss goes. So after the second whirlwind, the player who wants to grab the first orb goes to the edge of the map, which is usually a ranged player, and next, the player that wants the mini axe or the tank goes in front of that person to secure the debuff and second shockwave. This is what it should look like. Now there is an important job for 2 other players, Big Axe and Heal. The healer needs to run near the center to not get pulled along with the player you choose to hold the Big Axe aggro. After whirlwinds, they can position there early or after the heavy block. But for me, I like to prepare just in case issues happen accidentally, so I choose to do it after the second whirlwind. The reason we want the healer near the center is to have mobility. If the healer is not inside, he will be chained and have no access to heal other players. The healer needs to not be chained to heal properly throughout the raid. Now the other player that wasn't pulled has the job to immediately run outside the map and go pull the big axe and kite the axe away from the other players while also dodging the initial shockwaves. Seems simple, but people make mistakes. 2 important mentions. The player with the mini axe cannot die, because if he does die, he drops a permanent AoE of damage that won't disappear until the raid is over. All 4 players will either DPS if they have range, or just chill and wait for the heavy attack and not move either, because the chains do more damage when you move. After the first heavy, the player with the first orb will immediately move to the safe location. What is a safe location? Well, like I mentioned before, there is an orb and a mini axe. So the player that goes first needs to spot whether the player with the mini axe will be to his left or to his right. If the player is to his right, then that means the right side is unsafe, because if he goes to the right side and the boss breaks the tether, the player will be stunned in a location where the second shockwave will be. The safe direction to go is to migrate to the left. If the mini axe player is to his left, then that means the left side is unsafe, so go to the right. Once the boss does the shockwave, he will break your tether and your damage over time debuff disappears, leaving you stunned, which is why we need to go to the right locations. The mini axe player follows your previous trail to get stunned where you once were. The healer's job is to go around and make sure everyone is healed up and not taking too much damage from the tether, because your health will drop. The main focus for the healer is the mini axe player, but keep your eyes peeled for low health players. How can you mess this up? Well, if the mini axe player decides to not go to the right direction and follow the first orb's previous shockwave, he will go a different direction, be stunned where the third shockwave will be, and as you guessed it, he will die because of it. That's why you have to follow the right order. The stun is inevitable, so be stunned in a safe zone. You can follow who will be the third or fourth player based off the first and second. Last honorable mention, there's also a blue axe that the inner players can get. Just heal yourself and you should be fine. Don't ignore it, because you can die. Comment thanks so I know you made it to the end, or drop your country location so I know where this video reached. If this video gets 40 likes, like the previous one did, I'll consider making a video like this for the new dungeon coming out in 3 days. Thanks again, guys, and as always, stay blessed.